Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Today I'm going to do something a little different and walk you through how to make a map of your very own on GeoGuessr. Those of you who were watching last week will remember I did this myself in New York City, and I think it's a really fantastic feature and a fun way to personalize GeoGuessr, make it your own, and share sort of new and exciting places with other players. So without further ado, I'll get started. Now I'm on the GeoGuessr homepage here, and you'll see on the left-hand side there is the Map Maker link. So if you click on that, you're faced with this page. Now the first thing to note is that you cannot save a map unless you have a GeoGuessr Pro account, which means paying for GeoGuessr. It's a couple of dollars a month. What they do is tease you here by allowing you to still go through the map making process, which I think is a wry trick of theirs. So you can still experiment with putting down locations and so on, giving your map a name, description, avatar, and so on, and then you get to the bottom, and what you cannot do is save it. So I am going to log in, and I've now logged in. And I'm going to take you through the process here on the map maker so that we can also go through saving it and so on. So now in the logged in page, you'll see on the left hand side map maker. There's a few other things here that you now get with your account, but we'll go to map maker. And here we are again, the same familiar screen from before. Now, once you've logged in and accessed the page, you'll see that there's two different approaches you can employ to making a map on GeoGuessr. The first here is Handpicked Locations, and the second is Polygonal Regions. For Handpicked Locations, I'll read the script here. Handcraft every single location. Gives you full control over the locations included in your map, but also means that you have to put a lot of locations in to keep your map fun over several games. So this handpicked locations feature means here that you can systematically pick every single point you want to include on the GeoGuessr map. You don't have to hit save every time like I did this there. You can just click away, and as you can see, I'm clicking in the United States. It gives you a preview here which you can adjust. For example, this is the starting position, which you can then save, or if you don't really mind the original position, you can just leave it as it is when it comes up. So here, for example, I can face away from this store, save that, and carry on. And as you can see, I can just continue ad infinitum adding points. So that's very exciting. Let's save and just minimize that. Another thing you can do in the handpicked locations format here is if you scroll to the bottom, you can both import and export locations. So I'm going to import a file as well and show you how that works. It says here, in case you have many locations, you can choose to import a CSV file or export the current locations for post-processing. So the reason this is extremely useful is as per the description for handpicked locations, you have to come up with very, very many points here in order to make this a fun and interesting map to play over several occasions. Otherwise, you know, I've already just selected 20 points or whatever. You can imagine that if someone plays that game just 2 or 3 times over, they'll have pretty much enumerated it and start to see they'll start to get repeat positions, won't they? So instead, you can create many, many thousands of positions using an Excel file. So I'm going to demonstrate that for you now and walk through terms like CSV and so on as well. So if I go to this Excel file here, now what you'll see is I've started an Excel file. And in the 2 columns here, I've put in the latitude and longitude that I want to include. And I've created several coordinates here, 41 to be precise. You'll see why I've created these specific ones in a second, but this is for illustrative purposes only. Now this is a standard Excel file, and I've put latitude in the A column and longitude in the B column. Latitude, for those of you who might not know, defines the north-south position around the world, with 0 being at the equator, plus 90 being at the North Pole, and minus 90 at the Southern Pole. And longitude defines the east-west position around the world, with 0 being at the prime meridian, which is the line of GMT that goes through Greenwich. Now, all you have to know is that you can just put in each coordinate in the sort of decimal format, as opposed to it being minutes and seconds and so on. Just use the decimal format in the 2 columns. And you don't need to do anything funny in terms of formatting. You can include, I think, as many decimals as you wish. Here I've included, I think, down to the 1/1,000,000th, and you can then create as many rows as you like. And this is in Excel. If I then go to the file and hit Save As, you'll be able to save this as a .csv file in your settings. So if I go to File Format here, this is on a Mac. It'll be roughly similar for a Microsoft system. And I just need to find it. It's up at the top here. CSV UTF-8, comma delimited. That's all you need to remember. I'm going to save that as test1.csv, and it's on my desktop. Let's hit save. And I'm going to replace the file I already have there by the same name. Okay, very good. Now, if I go back to GeoGuessr, you'll remember that I've included some locations here already, which I've handpicked. I'm now going to upload that file that I just saved to my desktop. So import, I scrolled down to the bottom here, import CSV file. And on the desktop, it was called test1.csv. Open. And you can see here now I've included, it's loaded the points that I had specified in my CSV file here. Now, I alluded earlier to the fact that I selected those points for a reason. You'll see here there's a bit of a pattern to the points that I've uploaded. The reason I thought that this was interesting is because I've included here to 10 degrees going east and west and north and south. So you'll see the 4 points around here give you a sense of perspective of the distance of what 10 degrees actually means of both longitude and latitude. Scrolling in a bit further, the points here you see around the southeast of England are plus and minus 1 degrees north, south, east and west as well, so from this central location. So you get a sense of what 1 degree looks like. Scrolling in a bit further, we're getting into central London now. And you can see that 1/10 of a degree still takes you a pretty decent distance across London, which I think is quite interesting. Scrolling in further still. Now you have 1/100th of a degree, and you can see you're a mile or so in either direction from Greenwich Park. Maybe slightly less, and so on and so forth. So you can see the decimal sort of values and how much they actually mean. I'm going to scroll right in here to the middle, where I've put 1 point in the middle, and you can see here the blue lines on the map line up with where there is a camera position from Google Street View. Now you might ask then, what happens if you put a pin down where there is no camera? It will load, I suppose, the nearest location. That is my understanding of what is happening here. So for example, you can select these photospheres, which are already included. My understanding is if you select somewhere that doesn't have a photosphere, it will link you. There it is. In fact, you can see it doing. I'm putting the pin down in the middle of the field, but it's auto pinning me to this road up here. So it's just selecting the nearest location to your pins, really. Now it is not doing that for these CSV file loaded pins. You can see here that the decimal places really start to not matter. Once you get down to the 1/100,000th and 1/1,000,000th of a degree, you're talking about moving just a few centimeters either way from the prime meridian and the 0th degree, which is in the middle of all this. As you can see, we're right by the Royal Observatory of Greenwich. So that's very exciting. I'll just save that point there that we had. And zoom out. And you can see here now the Google Street View maps are all in blue. So these are the points with which you can put a pin down on, and it'll snap you to them. And you can see in London, or really in most of the UK, they've really enumerated this quite thoroughly. So you can pretty much put your pins down everywhere. Now, another interesting thing that I loaded up as well on that CSV file is I included points stretching north and south. You can see here up to 80 degrees, 70. This is almost 60-ish here, 50, 40, 30, 20, 10, and so on. And I thought this was interesting because it shows you how a degree north-south actually changes in terms of the distance it spans around the Earth, because of course the Earth is a globe and not a flat plane. So the reason this is interesting is because 10 degrees, for example, up here, this is the difference between 70 and 80 degrees north, has more of an impact on where the pin is than 10 degrees up here, which is much, much closer to the equator. So I thought that that was an interesting illustration. So you can see here now we've got both pins on the map that we've selected ourselves. We've got pins on the map that we've hand-picked using a CSV file and uploaded into the equation. You might be wondering whether you can save them all both together or indeed import another CSV file, and I believe you can. I'm going to go and do that now. We've got here book1.csv. I'll open that. And these are some other test locations here. I've added this line of points going across Nigeria. And so you can upload multiple CSV files and combine CSV files with handpicked locations. And you'll see here there's actually a running total at the bottom. You have picked 66 locations, so it tells you how many you've got. One thing that doesn't seem to work for me is the export locations. My understanding is this then exports all of the locations you've got. If I click on that, it doesn't seem to do anything. So this doesn't seem to be working very well at the moment. Another thing I forgot to mention earlier is that the format of the CSV file is provided here. So lat-1, comma, space, long-1, comma, space, so on and so forth is meant to be the format of the file you provide. Actually, Excel does this for you automatically when you save your file as a CSV file. So it's putting in those commas and spaces between the values and ordering them as such. So I hope that that helps and gives you a good overview as to how the handpicked locations feature works on GeoGuessr. You can also search for a location up here, so I can search for London, for example, London, UK, and we find ourselves back in London, UK. You can zoom in and out like a normal map, and also use the satellite feature if you wish to, which is sometimes helpful to pin yourself down next to an interesting feature. So that pretty much covers the handpicked location side. I'm just going to reload the page and I'll show you the polygonal regions. So the polygonal regions description says, include locations by drawing one or more polygons on the map. Recommended when you want to cover larger areas such as a city or country and provide better variation and replayability in your map. So those of you who watched my New York City map creation video will note that this is how I created the map for that. And put quite simply, you can just put down the corners of the area that you want to encompass and then select, and then it will automatically select all of the street view locations within. So let's take an example of an interesting city. Perhaps Adelaide in South Australia is quite interesting. The reason Adelaide's quite interesting because it's a very planned city here. So I'll use this as an example. As you can see, we've got the greater Adelaide area, but bang in the middle, Adelaide sort of city centre is in this interesting grid format, and it's surrounded by this park. So I'm on the Polygonal Regions setting now, and let's say I might want to create a new map which just encompasses the centre of Adelaide. So that's my new goal. So I can go now and trace around. Let's use this road as our example, the outside road that encompasses the center of Adelaide. So I'm working my way around what I think, looks to be the outside of the center of Adelaide. Down here, I'm going to include the park. Why not? Now, you don't have to trace the roads. In fact, as an example, I'll show you. I can go here to the middle of the park and back out again. So I don't need to follow the street view roads. It's just going to encompass every street view location that is within this polygon. And to finish the polygon, you go back to the initial starting point, and then your area is selected. So you can see here I've got this this shape now, which is sort of shaded in black, which is fantastic. And it says here, this region contains 194 locations. Fantastic. You can select points as well. And when you create a new point, it also creates a midway point, which you can then use to sort of fine-tune the map. So every time you create a new point there, it creates a new midpoint, which you can then use, which I think is fantastic and makes it very versatile to grow out areas. Or if you miss an area and say, oh, for example, I wanted to include College Park here, I can take this point out to College Park like that, and then from the midpoint expand it back out to include College Park. And there we go. We've included College Park now in our new region. So we've got a funny shape, which is great. And you can see our region counter has gone up to 220 locations. So that's fantastic. One thing you can't do, I don't think, is go back between handpicked and polygonal regions. So you cannot do both. Those two things are separate. And worth noting, in the polygonal regions setting, there is no upload or export features. So those become unavailable. You have to hand select this polygonal region yourself. Regardless, for both handpicked locations and polygonal regions, once you are happy with your map, you can then scroll down and give it a name. So for example here, I'm going to say this is a center of Adelaide, South Australia. And I can give it a description. So this map includes the center of Adelaide plus a few extra areas. And so this is optional. You can elect to do this or not. But I think it helps to give your map a name and a description, particularly if you are intent on sharing it with other people. Now, the map avatar is also quite an interesting feature. You'll recognize this from other maps in GeoGuessr. You can select what this looks like here, and there are several settings. There's the background, of which you can choose 7 different options. So there is a blue, a purple, a greeny blue, dark blue, very dark blue, orange, or pink. There is then the ground, with which you can select this kind of funny sort of neutral color, blue, green, yellow, brown, or kind of water. The landscape, with which you can select mountains, a building, other mountains, icy mountains, snow-capped mountains, a city, rolling landscapes, something with some pyramids in it, a volcano, or an ice-capped volcano. And decorations, you can add a farm truck to it, some trees, other trees, several variations of trees, or a Japanese pagoda. So look, I think that that's quite pretty there with the pink background, the Mount Fuji almost, and the Japanese pagoda, and some trees that are blossoming. So I will use this one right here. Now, at the bottom, you've got options here, visible to others, and highlight on your profile page. I'm going to select them both, as I think that that's quite fun to share my map with other people, though of course you don't have to. And yeah, sure, I'll highlight it on my profile page to make it apparent. And I'm going to go ahead and create the map. There we go, my maps. As you can see, the Centre of Adelaide, South Australia map has now been added to my map section. It's also next to the New York City but not Manhattan map that I created earlier. You can go back then to both edit the map and unpublish it. So here we are, I'm back in the editor, and as you can see, I'm very far zoomed out. In fact, I'll just type it in, add a Adelaide, just to zoom in there. And as you can see, it's saved my polygon here, which I can go back to editing. So if you do make a mistake or want to change something subsequently or so on, you can do that just by editing your, by going to the edit. And similarly, you can change your map name, the description, and the avatar that you've given your map if you want to do that. So let's, for example, change the ground back to something, something green here. The landscape, I'll make the city because I can. I'll remove the decorations and just add some cacti because we're back in, we're in Adelaide of all places, and I'll make the sky orange. And I will add to the description here, edited. And I will save again the map. So as you can see here, it's saved my edited description, and it saved the orange background and so on and so forth changes. It also comes up with the stats, moderate, average score 0. Obviously for now, nobody's played it, and it's got 220 locations, and nobody's liked it. So why don't we go ahead and play the map? Single player, I'll give myself just a few seconds, why not? 2 minutes, start game. And so as you can see here, we've started on the game already. We're facing north-south. It looks to me like this huge parkland area is to our... What is it really? It's to our north still, northeast. So perhaps we're on the outer ring road, and you can see here it's actually centralized the map now on Adelaide. So my understanding is that it takes the center and all positions, extremities of your map, and then puts you there. So look, I don't exactly know where I am here, but perhaps we're on this outside road. Let's say we're facing northeast, aren't we? And there's still a road to our north. So perhaps there we're on the R1. There's a bit of a kink in the road. And we've come to the end here, and it's bearing round slightly towards the west, actually. So maybe we're not up there. Maybe we are over here. Not sure still. So going to carry on experimenting. Now we've got to a corner. This should help. We can see we're on South Terrace. We're by the Faster Pasta. South Terrace and Pulteney Street. There is South Terrace. Now, where is Pulteney Street? Pulteney Grammar School. Owen Street. Only got a few seconds left here, so I hope we do a bit better. Actually can't see Pulteney Street, so what are we going to do? Well, look, we know we're at an intersection, and we were coming up South Terrace, so perhaps that bends around somewhere else, which I haven't clocked. But look, I think we're roughly in this area. Oh, so look, we'd come up the Glen Osmond Road, and oh, there's the Faster Pasta. Excellent. So look, as you can see, I didn't do very well on my map the first time round, but I think you get the gist. We've all played GeoGuessr, and we know what this looks like. Let's do one more round, and then I'll give it a rest from there, and let you guys challenge me to improve. We're by, what is this? The Mayfair Hotel. We're in Adelaide. This looks like, again, right, bang slap in the center, doesn't it? And here's a street sign. We shouldn't have to move too far. Please load. Not quite loading. Let's see if we can load the map whilst we're staying here. Now I see that there's a tram line going along the street, and it goes north-south. So we can see here that there's bus stops and so on in the centre of Adelaide. Perhaps we're on one of these kind of streets here. There we go, that's helped. So we know we're at the cross of Hindley Street and King William. Let's see if we can't see those. King William Road and is there, and Hindley Street. There we go. We found our start. Now, weren't we by Charlesworth's Nuts to start? I believe so. Nope, possibly not. We were by the hotel, the Mayfair Hotel. There we go. We're on this corner. Let's go for the guess. Fantastic. Just a few meters away. Well, look, I think you guys will get the gist from there. So you all know how it works. If I go, you can then find your maps. If I go back to the home page from the My Maps section on GeoGuessr, and you can see here, this is the centre of Adelaide, South Australia map. So I hope that that's been very informative and perhaps helps you create your own maps on GeoGuessr. As I've said, I think it's a really fun feature that you can do this yourself, and I know that that's how some of the fantastic maps that appear on GeoGuessr get created. We've got here a diverse world created by Mapper, the dumb test. These are very popular ones, of course. But when you see on GeoGuessr that it has been created by a user, you know, this is why. So Unibwin here has created the European stadiums maps, for example, or Mikhail Falgard has created the US cities maps, which I think is absolutely fantastic and a great feature for subscribers to be able to do. So look, I do hope that that's been informative and you've enjoyed this video. Do let me know if you have any other questions or if you struggle with creating a map. Let me know in the comments and I can try to help you out with them. Have fun creating your maps and share them with me as well. I'd love to play them. Thank you very much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.